Welcome to the Get Real Podcast, your high-octane boost of full-on reality therapy for personal, business, and investing success with your host, Ron Phillips, because somebody's got to tell it like it is.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Real Podcast. Ron Phillips here, and boy, do I have a show for you guys today. This is going to be so much fun. I know every week I say the show is amazing, and honestly, it is. But this week's show is going to be amazing for a lot of different reasons. I have with me Brian Mertz, who I'm going to give a proper introduction to Brian. Brian is a builder developer out of Kansas City, Missouri. Do you claim Kansas?
No.
You don't build over there, right? So,
I do. I have some rental property in Lawrence, Kansas, but not a builder in Kansas.
Yeah. So Missouri on the right side of the line. Proper introduction. I've known Brian since 2005. It has been a long time that I have known. Yeah, I know. And for good, for bad, Brian has known me for a long time.
We both have more hair.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Less wrinkles. There's a lot of things that are different today for sure. Brian's not your ordinary builders. There's a couple of different types of builders, right? You have the small little builder, and then you have the big national builders. And Brian takes the best of both of those worlds, rolls them into one, and has just been quietly and humbly building Kansas City. I don't know how many thousands of homes you've built, but Brian is the most humble, really impressive builder I have ever met. And I've met a lot of builders. I've worked with a lot of builders over the years. Did I just sound like Trump? Brian is the greatest builder you'll ever meet in your world. Anyway, my Trump impression is horrible. Brian is a great guy, and he has built a ton of real estate. Not only that, but he knows the development world, and he's a really, really good guy. One of the good guys in the business. Welcome to the show, Mr. Mertz, if you're nasty. So,
wow, Ron, that was a great introduction. I mean, after that, let's just call it good. And
before Brian opens his mouth
is going to be way worse than what you do.
Before Brian opens his mouth. So a couple of other interesting things. Way back in the day, Brian and I got kicked out of a gym before it was cool.
Yeah.
Before Planet Fitness and all of the meatheads going to purposely get kicked out of Planet Fitness for banging weights around.
Yeah.
Brian and I went to what we thought was a real gym.
Yeah.
I mean, it had bumper plates for anybody. If you're listening and you know what bumper plates are and what they're for, they're rubber for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. So Brian and I are doing, some Olympic, we're training like what you're supposed to be doing at the gym.
Or what?
I think
we were training. Yeah.
I mean, maybe our form wasn't as good as it was in high school and college, but it was still, we were getting it done.
That's right.
And we got kicked out. Yeah, they did we ever go back there? I don't think we ever went back there. Maybe a couple. I don't know.
No.
No, it pretty much ended it. Brian and I don't think we ever worked out after that.
No.
Was that guy ruined what was a good thing. So, all right, my man. So what we're going to talk about today, which, I mean, it could be any number of things with me leading the show, but what I really wanted Brian on is I talked to you guys a few weeks ago, and I've said several times on the show, we've talked about regulations, we've talked about what's happening with builders, and I thought, man, so Brian made a post, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, several days ago, whatever, month ago. And this post, I was like, yes, I just need to have Brian on. He understands all of this stuff and he can explain it. everybody's trying to figure out why in the world are house prices not coming down? Why material prices, people can see individual material prices are coming down, Brian. Like there's there's things that would suggest that prices should be coming down and they're not coming down. And there's several different factors for this, not the least of which is what the article that you posted, and you posted several different things about building in general. But what are some of the things that you see as a builder developer that are keeping the real estate prices high, the construction prices high, so that the affordability gap just continues to grow?
So let's start with the development side. I do a lot of single family, townhome, and apartment development ground. So what that means is I'll take raw ground, take it through the entitlement process, do all the infrastructure, and then I'll either sell that off or I will build my own product on it. So to give you an example, I have a development here in the county, and our basis for infrastructure, roads, you think raw dirt and I'm going to sell it to a builder. It used to cost about $35,000 a lot to put that infrastructure in.
Yep.
And I'll say that went back, and it was fairly consistent for the last 10 years before 2021. I'd say that's kind of when everything hit the fan for me. That same lot to duplicate, I'm looking at $55,000-$60,000 of infrastructure costs.
And what caused that?
Well, a lot of things. So you have, where I build, we have the city of Kansas City, so you can build in a municipality.
Yep.
Or you can build in the county, or you can build in cities who are not big enough to control their own destiny. And I say that because they don't control the water, they don't control the sewer, they don't control the fire. All the public services that most municipalities have, those are ran by districts. So kind of quasi-governmental entities that really have no oversight and they can kind of do whatever they want. And that was probably one of the rants that you're referring to. But you take a development, and this happens in Kansas City too. I mean, just because they're a municipality, they're not excluded from it. But where it used to, you could put a C900 pipe in, plastic pipe. Well, now it's ductile iron. Well, before COVID, that wasn't a very big price differential. Well, now that they want metal water pipe, we used to pay probably $35, $45 for plastic pipe, but now we're paying $145. This is all per foot. So you've seen a drastic ramp up of material pricing. Now, I don't know what was wrong with the plastic pipe that everybody else has used, but now we're using metal pipe.
Well, have you figured out who in the government owns stock in the metal pipe company?
Exactly.
Right? Because I bet you, I mean, I'm not like Carmack, the, incredible or anything. I just feel like maybe there's some money to be made there for somebody. Not you, not me.
Yeah.
Not the homeowner, just like maybe somebody in government.
Well, and then you go to storm pipe. Everybody's seen metal storm pipe, plastic storm pipe. Back at, a long time ago, we used to use reinforced concrete pipe, RCP. Well, now there's a big push, and I get it. Metal, if it's water sitting on it, it's going to erode. That's not a good solution in my opinion. Plastic pipe doesn't erode, but now we have to use reinforced concrete pipe. Let me tell you how hard it is to get and how hard it is to pay for concrete. Nobody wants to use it. It's hard. It's laborsome. You got to use a crane to install it. They come in little sections. Whereas a plastic pipe, you just kind of throw it in the ditch and you're off and running. So you've got all of these outside forces outside of the developer's control. Some of them are not APWA, which are the standard specs that are used across the country. Some of these are just things that municipalities or fiefdoms come up with because they think it's a better mousetrap. And it doesn't mean it's a better mousetrap just because it's more expensive. I mean, there's ways to build a better mousetrap economically. And we're just not doing it. And that's, so everybody's, lumber prices are going down. This is going down. That is one line item in the large process of 50 line items that go into a finished product. And so it all starts, I learned this from an old developer when I was first getting into the business. And they said, you got to buy right. And that goes to ground. Well, I feel like I buy right on the ground price. Ground price hasn't gone crazy. It's everything after the ground price, out of your control. And you can't circumvent that process. And as long as those processes are in our way, nothing's getting cheaper.
So let's just walk through this for folks who are not necessarily as savvy with what you just said means at the bottom line when they're paying at the end, right?
Sure.
You used to have infrastructure cost $35,000. This is your cost, right? You have $35,000 infrastructure cost. Plus, you still have the land cost. That equals for you to make some money. What's a finished lot with the previous pricing cost? Right?
Yeah, great. So on a 70-foot wide lot, I would sell them before around $65,000 to the builder.
Okay. So you got land costs, $35,000 hard costs, profit for Brian, $65,000, $70,000 lot. Okay. And then when you take a $65,000, $70,000 lot, you build an entry level home, you end up with a price tag of what?
So before all this, that $65,000 lot would get you about a $400,000-ish home here in our market.
Okay.
So now that lot is about $100,000. Same size lot, same size house, because you can only go as big as the lot will allow you.
And we just heard from Brian that the land cost has been pretty stable. Okay.
Pretty stable. So now you're $100,000 for the same lot. And now you add in all the other energy codes and everything else that have been thrown down the builder's throat. So the same house we were building 8 years ago in the 400s is now 500 and 600.
So essentially, what I think has happened over the last 20 years is you and I've been, we've both been in the business a little bit longer, but since we've known each other, we've been working together. The entry level home that we used to sell 2005, on, that entry level home was a single family home. People could afford an actual house. Now, I remember when that changed, we started the entry level home, and especially in the Northland of Kansas City, became a townhome because the home cost was too high to be, quote unquote entry level or affordable, affordable housing for people. Now, I'm not sure any of that is terribly affordable because townhome pricing has got to be pretty out of control as well. If you've got a $500,000 to $600,000 starter home, I mean, what are townhome prices now?
Back in 2005, when we were first kind of new to the game, I was selling the same townhome I built today. I was selling for $99,000 retail price. Retail. My cost is now $200,000 cost for one unit.
It's just, I don't think people understand. So let's move a little bit into the regulatory piece of this and why you, the listener, should be concerned about this, thinking about it, and aggressively being involved, because this stuff is mostly coming, if I understand it right, Brian, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of this is coming from the local municipalities, states, cities. This is not Fed mandated stuff, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you have control. Listening to this, you have control. You can vote these idiots out that are doing this to your communities. And you can go to the meetings where the Brian Mertz of the world show up to pitch their plans and get dumped on by the city council. You can show up and have their backs. Because everybody is saying that they want affordable housing. when Brian shows up to try to create affordable housing, what are you met with, sir? Help everybody listening understand. We
Sure.
already talked about some of the development pieces of this, but
Yeah.
talk through what is actually happening at the municipal level and at the county level that makes it so that we don't have affordable housing anymore.
Well, let's start. Yeah, affordable housing is it's a wide range, right? So the first thing I do, I talk with a lot of cities. I've had a fairly successful project here north of the river that a lot of cities like the commercial aspect of it because they get their sales tax dollars. They get the schools like it, they get their commercial dollars. And then we throw in some residential around it to help support. So there's a lot of cities in the KC Metro that have asked me to come to them and say, we want to duplicate this project. And
It's a great project, by the way. It's unbelievable. It's so
go ahead.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
So Brian showed me years ago what he was working on, and there's the other really cool thing. So Brian had this vision for what he just described, and again, humbly described. This thing is like a town inside of a city. It is a gore, and it operates kind of like that. They have their own events. It is really, really cool. And in order to do that, he had to cobble together so many different tracts of land to be able to actually make this thing work, all the time keeping the municipality on his side to be able to do it. It was a masterful deal. When he first showed it to me, I was like, how in the world do you even get that thing done?
Mm-hmm.
He did it. It's beautiful. It's no wonder the other cities want you to do that. Okay, sorry I interrupted you, but sometimes when Brian just like glazes over what he's done, you need to understand what he did so that you understand why these cities want it. It's killer. It's awesome.
All right,
Anyway,
so
go ahead.
the project is 300 acres. It's a $400 million project. There's about 2,500 people that live within the community. Yeah, so it's doing well. But when I first had that meeting with that city of Parkville, they said, we want affordable housing. And I just said, what does affordable housing look like to you? So we're on the same page. We want somewhere where our teachers can live. We want somewhere where our, blue collar police, whatever, right? Not everybody can. So this isn't an area where median household income's $170,000. Very affluent area, but there's nowhere for my kids to live. There's nowhere for, that empty nester to downsize to. I mean, it's kind of a problem for a lot of suburbs. Well, so my question to them is, what does affordable housing look like? Well, we're thinking about, this and this. I'm like, okay, well, that's like 500,000. That's not affordable. How do you feel about vinyl siding? Ooh. How do you feel about apartments? Ooh. And mind you, they hadn't approved an apartment project in over 40 years before I came. But I will give them a lot of credit. They were one of the few cities that I've met with and said, okay, I need this, but I'll give you this. I need apartments, but I'll give you commercial. I need 50-foot lots, which didn't exist in this municipality. But I'll give you a pretty nice baseball complex. I'll give you land for a school. So there was a lot of trading. A lot of people came together on this from all facets, the school district, the city, and we crafted a great project. So 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting with a city in Kansas who's been courting me for a while, wanting to emulate this. Okay, so I do a layout. I go to
So I'm imagining. Can I just put some color on what Brian's going to say? Just remember back to high school. Now, we didn't use the term courting. We used the term, dating, whatever, going out, whatever. I just want you to picture in your mind, that's what this is, okay? Brian is courting. He's going out with the city in Kansas. Now, we're going to find out really quickly. This is like a reality TV show, right? We're going to find out really quickly how this date is going to go down. All right, Brian.
Yeah, it's like catfish, right? Yeah. So
Oh, this is good.
we have a nice sit down. Everybody's pleasant. There's about 12 people around the table. I do the same spiel. What does affordable housing look like to you? This. I said, well, this is what it looks like to me, and this is what we did over here. Oh, we can't do that. That's way too dense. You got to have more green space. You got to have a trail through the middle of this. We don't use vinyl siding. Like, it was just over and over. You need more commercial. I'm like, you can't do the commercial because you don't have residential. Like, you're going to have empty shops. So
There's no people.
yeah,
Like, the whole live work. So what Brian built, the apartments, the quote unquote apartments that Brian built are on top. This community, if you guys can just picture it, maybe there's something close to you that's like this. Really nice commercial, first floor, tall ceilings, gorgeous restaurants, beautiful shops, amazing courtyard where everybody kind of gets together, shops facing the courtyard, really cool space. On top of them, it's like live work kind of stuff. I think in Florida, they would call these condos, and people would pay a buttload of money for them. I know, I was just down in Boca and West Palm. I was looking at condos. They have these down there. They're millions of dollars. They're not any nicer than what Brian built.
we're
Okay.
but yeah.
Now, the Brian's aren't millions of dollars. They're not in Boca. Did a completely different thing. However, they look like that. They're very nice. So for them to just like outright, you don't want apartments at all. I mean, you built other apartments, but like, there's just, it boggles the mind, Brian.
And this is
Catfish is about right.
this is the best part. So that's 2 weeks ago. We leave. I thank them for their time. Blah blah blah. Yesterday, I was in a panel hosted by an organization here in the Parkville, Kansas City area. One of the questions from the audience was, you need to do this project over in that Kansas town that we just referenced. I said, I'm glad you brought it up. I met with them 2 weeks ago. No shot. And he was like, that is so unfortunate because I live there and we need that here. Because they don't have affordable housing. So it's not a matter of builders and, all the processes that people are doing to make these things. It's the municipalities and the people who make the rules that we have to follow. And we're not asking for subpar rules or, trying to dodge something. It's just reasonableness is out the window.
Well, here's the thing. And this is something that if you live in one of the affluent neighborhoods and you're thinking about this and you're like, yeah, but I don't want that stuff close to me, right? Not in my backyard, right? Namby. Well, where I live, there's a municipality, and they have a really hard time opening restaurants. Not because the people there don't want restaurants and don't want to eat at restaurants, but because there's nowhere for the restaurant workers to live. They can't live there.
Yeah.
There's literally nowhere for them to live that's even remotely close to affordable. They have so shunned the affordable housing out of this community that they've screwed themselves, and they can't have restaurants that aren't like really expensive restaurants, because you can afford to pay those servers. You can afford to pay those workers if you have a really, really high ticket restaurant. But a normal restaurant that people would just normally go to, they don't exist there. And fast food just simply isn't present. You can't afford to hire the workers that work those restaurants. And so it's eliminated a whole subset. And then just come out of the restaurant world for just a second. What Brian is saying, like, the people who actually work and serve the community can't live in the community. They can't even live close to the community,
right?
Because the spillage, also, anybody who spills out of that municipality, right around that municipality, is almost as expensive because the people are trying to live close to work or close to where they work inside that municipality. It's so unfortunate that people can't think through And it's not like, Brian, you could create a master planned community that keeps the expensive, affluent homes separate and apart. That's literally what they're supposed to be, right? I mean, it's not like you build apartments right next to $1.5 million house in Kansas City. That's not how it usually works, right?
No. I mean, all of the zoning and everything is already master planned and laid out, right? So you're not trying to put a square peg in a round hole. So,
Yeah. I guess I don't.
but I think what it comes down to, Ron, is, I don't know if the right word is I don't know what the right word is, but it's forcibly eliminating a certain social class, whatever that is, from entering into your city.
I mean, I can tell you from a real estate perspective what that's called. People may not like it.
Yeah.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
If I did it, I lose my license.
And that's
right.
That's the part that pains me the most, because I don't build $1 million homes. I mean, my bread and butter, my entire life is affordable housing.
Yep.
And it just shocks me, to be honest with you. So
I think the thing that shocks me the most is that a lot of the people who are running these municipalities now came up in the municipality. They are not people who inherited money.
Right.
They were poor themselves. And now, because they have money, they're changing the rules and forgot where they came from.
Yeah.
And it's why we've done so much business over the years, is because what works for the investors is the same product that works for first-time buyers and people who need affordable housing. And we need a lot more of it. It is really too bad that the municipalities are throwing all of these regulations at builders and developers and creating a problem that they themselves are going to bitch about next week after they create the problem.
Well, when the whole carousel stops and where everybody lands is going to be interesting, because you don't have anybody to buy that move up house. They got to start somewhere. And if they're not able to start in that community, they're probably not going to stay in the community. You know what I mean? It's like the normal progression is start in an apartment, go to a townhouse, go to a single family, all within your community. That's not happening here. So how are you going to get rid of these $1 million homes, $2 million homes? They far outpace the number of townhomes and apartments and single family, affordable single family. So it's a death of a community at the end of the day. So
it really is. And Brian, it's people who don't understand what we've been talking about ask all the time. They're like, well, why do builders build all of these? I mean, who is buying all of these $1 million plus houses? And why can't they build these other properties? And the very simple reason is they can't make any money. Mm-hmm. You can't make money building a sub $500,000 house anymore, sub $400,000 house. And what I tell my investors is, if you can buy a brand new house today for $250,000 to $300,000, you've stolen it.
Jump on it.
You can't, because the land that's coming behind it, like Brian just said, the land that's coming behind it is far more expensive. And even if the building prices come down after that development cost, the development cost is baked into the dirt. Can't sell it for less than that. And in the event that the real estate market slows, you and I have both lived through at least one of these cycles, Brian. And when the real estate market slows and there's a pent-up demand and there's no construction that's coming, you have not solved the supply-demand problem. So in 2007, 2008, we had an upside. This was it was a very abnormal, but a normal market curve. Mm-hmm. We had a glut of homes that were built by the builders. That's normal in the cycle. Now there's too much inventory for the demand. The prices come back down and we start the whole process all over again. But that's not what we have right now.
No.
we have a massive pent up demand. And that article that you posted the other day, it was saying the same thing I've been preaching. That one thing that I found really, really shocking from that article is home builders built 1 million fewer homes, including rental units, in 2024 than in 1972. And there were 130 million fewer Americans. Now, I'd just like for you to let that land for a second. Combine that with everything Brian has just shared with you.
Yeah.
That is an unsolvable in the next couple of years problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't build that much, really. We are down 4.5 million units.
Ron, we're still behind the 2008 crash because a lot of developers in our market where I'm at, they were older gentlemen, older families, and they just got out. They took their chips off the table and they left. So now, I say developing is like being a farmer. You just don't wake up one day and you're like, I'm going to go develop 300 acres.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah. No.
So
no.
You have almost a generation that missed out on keeping up with the demand of putting lots in the ground in Kansas City. And most builders are not vertically integrated like that. They don't get it. They don't get the entitlement on the raw ground. They don't see it from A to Z. They come in and they buy finished lots and then build their house. They don't control their destiny because there's a lot of developers back in that time frame. That's all they did. They didn't build houses. They just developed. Well, when they left, you had Kansas City had the most fractured building. And we had 2,000 some builders. I don't know the correct number, but let's say we had 2,000 registered builders. That's a ton in our market. We're just weird like that. Well, after 2008, we had half because they didn't have any lots to build on.
Yep. And you couldn't get financing.
Well, there's a lot of other things, but you just couldn't find the lots.
Yeah. Old men just pieced out. No lots.
No more. Why risk it?
Kansas City is an interesting market with their builders and, things like that. Yeah. But this is not a Kansas City unique problem. And I want everybody, I've been preaching this now for weeks. You guys are probably sick of hearing me say it. This is not the same as 2008. In 2008, when everything started to contract, there were tons of lots. So you could, when everything got foreclosed on, there was lots you could build on, and you could build inexpensive product, because there was a glut, remember? There's no glut right now. There is no glut. There's not a glut of houses. There's not this big, huge wave of foreclosures that's coming. There's not, as Brian's saying, there's not this developed land that's just sitting there waiting for builders to build. There's not even a whole bunch in the pipeline. And I shared with you guys maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, what the numbers were in 2007, 2008 compared to today. And we're still down millions of units, and we're not building enough. And what Brian's saying is we're also not developing enough. None of it is enough. And even what's coming isn't affordable. No. It's unaffordable.
So, I'm a builder, right? I make money, but I build, I sell new. I tell my friends and my family, don't build new. Go buy a house you like in a nice area, remodel it. Because that dirt that you just bought, you can't duplicate anywhere else. You know what I mean? You're buying 1980 dirt improvements, tear down the damn house. It's cheaper than doing the new one. And you kind of see that in the Lawrence, Kansas market. They're buying houses in the older area and they're scraping them and building new houses. Because Lawrence is a whole nother market, but they put a stop on new development as well. So it's forcing builders to tear down 1900 product. And
I literally, it hurts my brain. I don't understand. Okay, so let's go back to what you can do. What can you do about this?
Here's the best way you can do about this. So I gave you the water district, sewer district, fire district, all these, we didn't even touch on the water connection fees that gets my blood boiling.
Oh man, they are so stupid.
I mean, for the right to connect, just the right to connect to go up 3,000% is
you need to share the. I'm sorry because I might have shared this from your post many months ago. No one's going to remember it. You have to share what happened. This is and this is specific. Share the ones for single, but also share the other because this is so astronomical. The numbers alone will tell you what the municipality was trying to do.
Yeah. Well, they were successful. So to give you an idea, I'm building an apartment project in this municipality, 197 doors. Just for the right. This is not the material, the labor to do it, the actual set the meters and everything. The right to connect to water is $1 million. Just for the, hey, Brian.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Welcome to the neighborhood. $1 million.
$1 million.
So now if I wanted to actually do the meter, so an 8-inch meter, gosh, Ron, and this has been a while. I think the new 8-inch meter was like let's say it's now $400,000. That meter used to cost me like $6,000.
Yeah, it is, folks. You want to know why?
That's not. I'm not messing with number. Like, I'm not exactly, but that's what it was. I mean, it's that big of a range.
Yeah, and that's not all the plumbing going into the community.
No.
That's just so we're at $1.4 million just to shake hands with the water.
Yeah,
that's literally what this is. And it used to be all total.
Because you got to have a fire line, and that's another meter.
So,
line and one's domestic. You doing it, buddy?
So, listen, you want to know why there's no affordable housing? That's why there is no affordable housing. It is not the builders. It's not the investors. It's not BlackRock's fault. It is your elected and unelected officials.
Yeah.
That is the problem. People.
So I digress. So what you can do?
You got me all fired up.
Right? Yeah, I mean, me too. I just
Brian just puked a little in his mouth again.
Yeah,
it happens.
It's a daily thing for me. The boards, the fire board, 3 people board, the water board, 5 people board, 5-person board. So it's a lot of major decisions are being made in a very small. And these elections, nobody comes up for these elections. Half the time they don't even have them because if nobody says they want to run, but you got to live in the district. That's the problem for me. I don't live in their district. They don't even have an election. It's like, okay, Bill, you're renewed. Sounds great. Let's go.
Yeah. And the power that goes to those people's heads and then they just get to do whatever they want.
I talked to my state representative. I tried to fight this on the state level. There is no oversight on these quasi-government agencies. All they, for example, for water, the state, the only authority they have is on the water quality. What all these boards are doing is buying water from Kansas City, Missouri, and just reselling it to their people in their district. So it's like not even treating water, just reselling water.
Yeah. And putting ridiculous fees. And the fees, the only reason for the fee, I just want to make sure we're clear about this. It's because they don't want those apartments. If they wanted them, they would make it affordable for Brian to build them, for people to have affordable place to live. They don't want them. And then the same politicians will get up and they'll pound their fist and they'll scream at guys like Brian and they'll degrade you and I, the investors, and then they'll use BlackRock's name because they're the evil person too, because they're buying up all these houses and they're just taking all the inventory from people. When last week, they made it so that Brian couldn't build affordable housing for you. Not that he doesn't want to. He literally financially cannot do it because of those people.
Yeah.
Same people that screwed up appraisals, same people that screwed up, you name it, they screwed it up, then they bitch about it later on, and they get reelected because they bitched about it as if they're going to fix it, and then they go and they break it worse. Yeah. Every single time, people. Okay, the other thing you can do, like Brian was saying, everybody keeps waiting for this stuff to just fall apart, get more affordable, 2008 again. And I am telling you, there is no stat that you can find. Dig beneath the headlines. There is no stat that would suggest to anyone who is thinking that we are in any way the same place as we were in 2008. Prices are not going to go down. That's why they haven't yet. As a matter of fact, I just read the other day that we're in the midst of a rebounding seller market in certain places.
Yeah.
This is uncharted territory. Buy the $250,000 house, buy the $300,000 house, buy the older house, buy what you can buy that's affordable, because the affordable stuff is fleeting.
Yes.
Now, if you like this episode, which I know you do because Brian's a stud, you should definitely like it. You should definitely like it. And Brian should make it so that you should subscribe if you're on YouTube, and leave us a great message on Apple Podcasts or whatever it is. That's how you can say thank you to Brian for his time. Man, I really appreciate it, because I don't know any other way I could have described what you described today. I couldn't have done it. I've been trying every week. Like, this is not the same. It's not the same.
No, it's not the same. And I preach it again, family and friends. My kids and my friends' kids, they're all, leaving high school, leaving college, doing whatever, joining the workforce. And it pains me when they're like, which my first job out of school was $20,000. All right. These kids are making 60. I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty dang good. They're like, I can't afford to rent. I can't do anything. I'm like, yeah, well, voting has consequences. So,
yeah. So remember that when you're out there with, I am not going to go on a tirade right now about next show. I'll go on a tirade about the government again, and all of the idiot protesters. But not today. We've used enough of Brian's time. Brian, I really appreciate it, my friend. This was invaluable for the people who are listening. It really is, because there's, other than you, I'm not sure who could give both sides, the development side and the construction side, that I know anyway, and give it so clear. So I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Ron. Hopefully I was clear enough to follow. I kind of jumped all over the board.
That was mostly my fault. I have a tendency of doing it. All the listeners are used to that. That was no big deal. Yeah, they're used to my derailing everything all the time. Till next week, everybody. Get out there and make something happen.
This has been the Get Real Podcast. To subscribe and for more information, including a list of all episodes, go to getrealestatesuccess.com.